Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything's working correctly here. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone has been able to rest up and get ready for the day ahead and all that fun stuff. Before we jump on in, as always, on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Excuse me. Also, just as a side note, I already posted it in the chat room. But today is the last day of my son's fun run. Fundraiser, whatever you want to call it. So if you are considering donating to anything specifically, this is his goal at the moment. He has reached his goal, but the cool thing is the more he raises, right now his class is in second place, the more he raises, it adds him in the running for cool little prizes and stuff like that. Plus it raises money for him to go on special different things and all that fun stuff. I've got the link posted in Discord, and I've also got it posted in YouTube there. So even $5, again, you don't have to. It's definitely not a requirement, but if you're looking to donate to anything specific, this is a great cause that goes to a really cool thing. Helps out his entire class. So consider that if you're looking for something to donate to. Today's the last day. The last day, right around the corner. Can't believe it. This month has already gone by so ridiculously fast. Anyway, just a quick note before we jump on in, as always, on the YouTube side of things. It does have between a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from. So that can definitely have a very big impact on what I'm talking about at any given time. So just keep that in mind while we're going through things. I just want to take a second to give a shout out to our latest members that joined overnight and this morning and yesterday afternoon and all that. Thank you so much for the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG fam. Of course, if you aren't a member yet, you do have a few different options to check out that you can utilize to further advance your trading education and career. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. That puts you into the YouTube fam side of things. And of course, YouTube fam gain access to the extended hours trading room, which continues the morning room from 10 to 11 o'clock or whenever we end up finishing. Along with that, every member also gains permanent access to the Discord chat server. And of course, awesome badge next to your name on YouTube to show your support, which always looks really cool. To understand our trading approach and what we're doing here every day, all you have to do is take a look at the Day Trading Academy. That's over on SSFTG. Keep in mind, this is no small PDF guide or anything like that you're going to finish in an afternoon. This is 19 plus hours of course material. Also, the homework, study materials, review, all kinds of stuff. Definitely a big thing that you're going to have to tuck into and get ready for. And then, of course, the big one, the VIPs. VIPs have exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed stream, covering the entire morning session from 9 until we end up closing the day, to ensure that you're on the fastest connection possible, but also that you don't miss any beats along the way. Alongside that, VIPs also have access to our monthly VIP webinars. There's actually one coming up this weekend about scalping, really fun. Private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a seasoned VIP vet over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you here trading with me today and analyzing these psychotic markets of ours. Let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts, see what's going on for today, take a look at everything. Don't forget to grab your morning DPs here. Those are posted for you this morning. A little bit late, but I got them posted for you. They're all ready to go now for today, and that will give us an idea of what to expect. Looking at the NASDAQ, so far we did have the, that's the last 5-minute one there. There we go. Big old flush all the way down to the lows, and after that flush down to the lows, big V bottom all the way back up. And now we're screaming all the way higher again. Nice continuation to the upside. Maybe getting a little bit overextended. It could be causing some problems, and notably, we do also have a negative divergence between these highs. Further confirmation that this might be overextending a little bit. I mean, look, I love the buy side. I want to be a buyer. I would love to buy every portion of this, but realistically, it's just so far up that I'm going to have a really hard time doing it up here. It's got to pull back. Maybe get back to settlement, get back to some of this previous congestion. I'm sure there's a POC in there somewhere that we can work with. A lot of back and forth going on right now, and really, we haven't gone anywhere. Even in the slightly wider picture, it's still a giant wedge. So, I mean, if it is going to go further, it does have some upside potential. But I would like to see us at least get a little further away from this area first, some confirmation, and then pull back. Maybe we can find some support bounces. On the S&P, same situation, higher low, big reversal all the way back up. The S&P had a big flush to the downside, but it didn't make a new low. And, you know, here again, we are seeing some potential concerns with, you know, not so much a negative divergence here on the S&P, but we do have a double top on the MACD with very obvious lower highs. We're consolidating here as well. Not really much has changed from this picture compared to the NASDAQ. We're still in a range, but this one does have a little bit more of a bullish tilt. Certainly not as aggressive on the top side failure there. So if bulls are looking for a bounce, this is the market that has a bit more room to go. Over on gold, really strong continuation up. They blew off the highs, and the concern was, you know, is this going to be just a brick wall and it goes collapsing all the way back down? it tried, but couldn't finish the job, and then went screaming all the way back up to the highs. With this big rotation to the upside, we've got a big break above the highs. Buyers will be looking for continuation higher, but so far they're not showing up to the party. Now, sellers aren't showing up either, but we've got to get away from this. We're stuck right in the middle. Get some confirmation, break away from the highs, break away from the lows, do something. On crude oil, big plummet to the downside, massive slide to the lows, but here again, did not break a new low, trying to get a V-bottom rotation back to the upside. Bulls need to really continue back above this low-ended 63s. Excuse me. But settlements at 63.30, I mean, there's just so much stuff in the way. They're going to have such a difficult time trying to work their way up through all of this. Man, and you can see there's already a really strong rejection here. Sellers are looking to try to get this to go back to the downside. Buyers are trying to get it to go back up. We're still stuck in a wedge. We've got to really kind of wait to see what they want to do here. And this rejection off that previous swing is not good. They might have to dip a little bit lower down into the 61s, 61.50s. The euro has also shown a slide back, nowhere near as strong as some of the other markets. Basically just a two-legged correction back and bounced right back off of it. Potentially, they were trying to get a bear flag or something going here, but this has gone on so long now that a bear flag has become a lot less likely. It's more likely that we see a continuation down, buying off the lows and bouncing off of that point for a continuation. We'll have to wait and see what they want to do, but that's kind of the mindset that a lot of traders are going to be coming into today in terms of where is the actual bounce going to happen, where's the reversal going to take place, and if it is going to drive down, being that now it's more likely to have a higher low, that's a perfect spot for swings to start looking for a bounce back up as well. Everything is just waiting for a bit lower. Over on Bitcoin, after that big old panic flush below 30,000, and depending on the exchange, Binance landed exactly on 30,000. Some of the other ones were a little bit above, but right around that 30,000 pullback, huge flush, and now it's gone up to basically right where it was before the flush, actually a little bit further up. It seems like buyers bought the dip, which I don't think is much of a surprise, and we were talking about that larger dip for ages. We finally got it. Ethereum dipped underneath 2,000. I don't think we're going to see 2,000 again. If it does, I mean, maybe 2,200, 2,300. I very doubtable we're going to see 2,000 again. If it does, then we might be in for a bear market. But that was just such an opportune dip. Unbelievable. BTFD. Looking at the NASDAQ on the daily. We do have a continuation down. Let's get that new leg to the lows. I mean, we didn't get the move down to the 12,880s to 820s, which is a real bummer. It's a real disappointment. But that said, I mean, all things considered, we do have a really strong second leg down. They tried to get a continuation move lower, and notably, where they're failing to close under, I think, is very important, because that's the earlier completion of the measured leg. And remember, they didn't quite overshoot it to that 50% deviation, which is usually what you like to see if they're going to get that third leg, and they missed it by just a little bit. And now the fact that they're having a hard time closing back underneath that again is a really big tell. Buyers are going to be looking to utilize that bull bar as a launching pad to try to get this thing to go screaming to the upside, because they can put their stops under the lows. Doesn't require a whole lot of risk, but when you look at the upside potential, well, even to the nearer term, it's still over 1-to-1. And if you're looking at just back to the highs, you're already at 2-to-1, a little over. And that doesn't include anything above that. And we know what the market likes doing sometimes at all-time highs when it goes nuts. 905 at least is the first objective, and if we're looking at that from that perspective, I mean, that's a crazy distance to the upside. You're talking like a 5% lift on the NASDAQ. So lots of bullish potential here to the upside, and we're going to be coming into some pretty bullish intent. On the 60-minute chart, we are seeing those sellers coming in off of the second sell, but notably, they did not make a new low. We stalled off of those previous closes and opens and reversed, just screaming to the upside. So with this massive potential V bottom, it's not confirmed until we break above these highs, which we'll probably see today at this rate. But once we start seeing that, bulls are going to be looking to try to pick that next pullback up, even if it dips all the way back down to 13,100s. Because realistically, we're going to have a lot of shorts who are looking to try to carry this down. They tried selling off of the L1s, selling off of the L2s. They finally got the rotation, couldn't finish the job. They did technically, I guess, to the low closes and opens, and then reversed back up off of that area. Then no seller showed up at the L1, barely any at the top, and now we're at the highs of L2. I mean, if this starts creeping back up and breaking into those highs, if we do get a reversal, what a phenomenal launching pad for buyers to reload into that dip. This could end up being an incredible reversal off of the lows. It's very early. We haven't had new highs. We're still stuck in a wedge. So we've got to be a little bit cognizant of what's going on in the medium term. In the shorter term on the 15, they're attempting to get that reversal back to the upside. We've got more continuation higher, major failure off of the lows, and notably from the low to the high, we pulled back, got underneath that 20 area, and that's kind of the concern. Like, okay, well, wait a minute. If we're underneath the 20, if we break the lows, it's game over. It got really close, but they couldn't get it done. And notice where it bounced after it made it back above there, right off of that same level, 4 times. If they get another pullback to that zone, you better believe there's going to be a lot of people waiting. We'll see. What a crazy move. Just kind of fighting back and forth between the 13,120 low side POC and the 13,250 high sided POC of the major move. And now we're breaking above that. So even further confirmation that the bulls are taking over. Looking at the Euro session to Asian session, they're stacked on top of one another. Usually that means that the market's going to have to decide if it's going to stay above the session highs of the Euro. It's going to end up closing bullish by the end of the day, almost always. Not forever, but usually. More than 60% of the time. Maybe not always. We'll back off of that statement a little bit. But typically speaking, if it's staying above the Euro session highs, it's going to end up closing the end of the day bullish. If it fades back inside of the highs, or we see that ubiquitous 3 lower high failure inside hold, we're typically going to close and try to migrate down to the lows of the Euro session and potentially even shift bearish. So a lot rests on the high of these Euro sessions. That said, we know the context. If it does dip really deep, buyers will still be hanging out. So look at the 5-minute on the S&P. Side note, there hasn't been a single bear bar since 820. Just saying. See what these bad boys want to do. Got the open around the corner here in about 15. All right, and now we wait. Market's not really doing a ton of anything in particular. Fantastic bounce back up. Man, I love transferring Bitcoin and crypto and all of that when the market has had a big drop. It almost always goes up like 5-10% by the time the transfer's done. Gotta love those appreciating assets sometimes. Very strong continuation to the upside. And so far, looking at the US session, I mean, the entirety of the session started off with the move to the highs down to a new low, then up to a new high, kind of stuttered around for a little while, tried breaking down to a new low. And this is where a lot of buyers will have likely tried buying into the pullback. They obviously gave up on that bear bar. But bulls will be looking for a continuation move to the upside. And it rolled all the way down to a new low again. So we went down to a new low, up to a new high, pullback up to another new high, down to a new low, reversed all the way straight back up to a new high. And if sellers were going to be looking to try to carry it back down, right there is where they would have done it. A lot of buyers will have been taking profit in that area as well. So almost guaranteed we're going to have a POC in that spot. Let's just double check. Yep, there's the POC right in that spot. Predictable. So massive area of interest at around 230. Now that we've broken above a major new high, even if this does end up cycling all the way down to a new low, remember, new low, new high, new low, new high, new low, new high, and kind of cycle. Even if that does happen, we still likely get a very nice bounce around those 230s, so long as they don't top weight a POC or anything. Might be difficult to do because we have the open in about 12 rather. And a lot of volume comes in there. Even if they're not necessarily trying to get a POC up there, there's just so much volume that they might make one. Yesterday when you said Ethereum would get back up to 3,000, I didn't believe you, but I still bought some just in case. Nice. It's there again. So, I mean, it pulled all the way back down to, what, 2,200? Made a low of 1,888. What a drop. I mean, to be fair, it didn't make it up to 3,000, so I can't say that it technically didn't. I wasn't right. So, you know, if we're being specific here. But still, I mean, that was a heck of a bounce. And those are those double value pullbacks that you're looking for. It doesn't matter whether it's crypto or if it's Apple, right? Irregardless, right? If you're looking at something like, as an example, Apple, since the market did have a pretty nasty pullback, if you're looking at these areas and you're looking at, now Apple, you can go to a daily chart pretty easily. If I'm looking for a value pullback on Apple, I'm looking for the exact same mentality. You just want to see them stack up on the same spots. If we're going backward a little bit, this last pullback was about 20%. If we go to the, make sure I'm on logarithmic, there we go. We've got the next pullback was 25%. If we go the pullback before that, 35%. Sheesh. The next pullback before that, 39%. These things keep getting bigger here. Next pullback after that, a little lower, 33%. Okay, so we seem to have we finally backed off a little bit. This one's probably bigger. Yep, 45%. And then way back here is 61%. So obviously this gives us a huge differentiation. Now remember, this is after several splits, and we're talking like after split pricing Apple at like $5. So is this actually relevant, a 61% pullback? Probably not. We're on a daily chart, so we want to go a little bit more in the nearer term. And generally speaking, the nearer term tends to be between 40 and 20%. So you're seeing those doubling of pullbacks, of value pullbacks about 20%. A double pullback would be 40%. If it's going to pull back a little bit further to a doubling of value, then that would put Apple right at around $88. That's where whales and big money start hitting it. And not just whale, like everybody. Everybody on the planet sees that dip. They're like, oh, wait a minute. More continuation to the upside. We've got about 8 minutes until the open. 928 is going to be the next big point of interest. There are a lot of different ways to to participate in the crypto bounce, whether you want to trade crypto or not. You know, yesterday we were talking about how some people hate Bitcoin and hate crypto as a whole because they feel it doesn't stand for anything. Okay, cool, fine. They don't have to buy it. But, you know, we're still traders. We still want to profit off of opportunity. And, you know, having to open up a brand new exchange and all this other stuff, I get it. Like, a lot of people aren't going to want to do that. There are several ETFs available. There are futures available. There are options available now. There's a lot of different ways to approach it these days. So one of the more common ones would be, well, any of the Bitcoin ETFs. But you can also look at subdivided stocks like Riot Blockchain and play the company as a whole. There are tons of different ways to participate in it. Whether you want to actually own Bitcoin or not is kind of irrelevant. We're traders. We profit off of opportunity, regardless of whether it's on cockroach futures or crypto. Yeah. So far, no pullback whatsoever. The 5-minute chart on the S&P is nothing but bull bars. On the NASDAQ, they did have a bear bar at 905. That's it. that was the last one, but they did have one. Bulls will be looking for opportunities to buy on the S&P. Realistically, this has gone so far to the upside that I want to buy a little bit deeper. At least at the base of that previous bull bar. At least at the open of the bull bar before that. Even gap closure, 1750. This whole zone. That's the hot spot. Not way up here. Although some buyers may start hopping in underneath 4120s. That's below the previous bull bar. There's a lot of wick above the highs. If anything, even if I wanted to be super aggressive, I would still look to offset by at least a point. Like 1850, like something like that. It's just so far up. From a scalper's perspective on the NASDAQ, we do have the Euro session highs, but notably, there are a lot of giant chunks of volume that were just showing up. Now, given the context and the fact that the market's screaming higher, it's more likely that these are limit sellers, meaning that they're buyers taking profit. Right? That would be the logical scenario here. I hope they weren't sellers, but if they were, they're massively stuck. Might have to come back down to that point of interest. That would be the initial zone where buyers may try to get some scalping going on, at least to the upside. We only have 4 minutes or so until the open, so it's tough, but a little bit of a snapback, like into the 76s, 75s, might be viable. Do you think it's too late to buy? Well, I wouldn't call it a dip. If you're buying now on crypto, the dip's already done. Yeah, in that mentality it is. Realistically, from the perspective of Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of those major coins, if we're looking at something zoomed out a little bit further, like a 4-hour perspective, we can see that this was nothing more than a value dip back to 30,000, obviously, but also just to get back to some previous zones of interest. This went way too aggressively high, and again, we had the undertow that was giving us a massive heads up over the last like week and a half to get a deeper pullback. If we look at that perspective and we zoom way out to when this rally actually started, kind of in September in that area, and we're looking at this from the perspective of continuation traders and cycles and all of that. When we're looking at that first pullback, that was a nice L2 pullback. And hang on. Get this on. Yeah, I was going to say logarithmic's going to make that measurement really awkward. Let's go over here first. We've got the first major pullback, which ended up being about an L3. Continuation a little bit further up into an L2, then an L1. They're climbing the ladder. We're likely going to get a deeper pullback. Where did we pull back to? L4. Back to value. Back to 30,000. Back to all of these major psychological levels. I mean, it doesn't really matter what perspective you were looking at it on. It pulled back to value. Is it going to go V-bottom and go screaming back higher? It's definitely possible. But realistically, if you utilize a bit of historical information and see what happened, generally speaking, when you've got big wicks on the bottom of Bitcoin, it either is a very weak bar and reverses and never comes back, or it hovers there around the close for a very long period of time. In this case, so far, we had the close in the really strong bull bar. We had the close, strong bull bar, back down, strong bull bar. I mean, it's starting to break away. This might be one of those breakaway moves that never comes back. If that's the case, we should get into L2 pretty quickly, and then we'd be back into the 50,000s. And again, you're talking like another 15% rally. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential upside, and it might not come back. If it does pull back, we're probably going to hover around the 38,000s for a while. So just utilize historical information to tell you what to do. So far, it looks like a heck of a bounce off the lows. They might not be hanging out here for very long. $928 hit, although it really didn't do anything. 1 minute until the open now. And S&P didn't pull back, not even close to 750. 1750, rather. Let me put you over here. No, not the whole thing. There. All right, open right around the corner here. Would still like to see a quick little flush down to the 65s, but, oh, POC shifted, but it did it before the open. They shifted the POC before the open. What an interesting timing on that one, huh? So the POC shifting at the top right before the open. See what kind of volatility this open brings. Oh man, piercing above it pretty aggressively. Well, man, I think it's pretty safe to say I'm not going to get that pullback on the S&P, huh? Okay. Just cancel those then. If we zoom in a little bit closer in terms of the overall structure, obviously things have gone a little bit reversal heavy here, but from the top to bottom previously it was at 88, and now from bottom to top it's at 290. Also, just out of morbid curiosity, where is a Megaphone top. We're a little bit above that. Okay. Maybe. Let's see if they reach out to that big one. Obviously, the only thing that people should be doing is buying for now. We haven't hit any major zones of resistance, and the sellers have failed every attempt. S&P continuing aggressively to the upside. They got a bear bar. Jeez, look at this thing. Just screaming higher. No remorse. No breaks. Very strong continuation to the upside. Man. Not really doing much. I guess it's kind of hard to do anything when it just keeps going up, though, huh? It's just bulls pinching it right back up again. Hasn't quite made it to that megaphone top yet. I don't think it's even had an L1 pullback. Looking at the first 5 minute, now that we've got that completed at least. On the S&P, yikes, right at the top, 2750. And on Ethereum, what a bull bar, just as a side note for the first 5 minute candle. And that's at 20. Stop moving. There we go. Man, they are getting close to the top of that megaphone. The first test of this is very likely, although you're selling in a very strong bull market, very likely scalpers will try to pressure back on this. It's just highly unlikely that buyers are going to try to hold through a crazy target like this. Okay. This is like everything went to bed. What happened? Ooh, nice little pullback on Ethereum. A little more continuation on the Nasdaq to the upside. Trying to get up to the top of that megaphone. I can't believe they made it up there. That's crazy. Just kind of hovering here. 2550 was the close of the first 5-minute bar on the S&P. Kind of curious to see if buyers will pick it up a point underneath that, just with the assumption that today still should be a bullish day. Just a little point offset underneath it. Nasdaq tapped the objective on the highs. I'm going to cancel my long on the S&P. I was kind of piggybacking off the fact that the Nasdaq hadn't hit the highs yet. The top of that megaphone. That is not the case. This thing just doesn't stop going up. $24.75. Sellers will attempt to try to take. I think it's a terrible entry for sellers, but I don't mind buying against them, with the assumption that it is a bad location. You could even potentially offset a little bit and say, you know what? I think that they have enough to get 1 point, and say 23.75 and offset to 21.75. 22 and 23.75 all the way back up. At least that way we're compensating for a potential deeper pullback, given that the Nasdaq was sort of my help. More continuation to the upside. S&P just couldn't quite get down far enough. Very likely we end up getting a deeper pullback, which at this point, a deeper pullback is just basically any pullback. There hasn't really been one. I mean, the first time this thing even pulls back to an L1, I've got to assume that buyers are going to just jump all over it. None of these have. Well, I guess this one did. That's for a second. That was the only one. See if we can get back down to that 5 minute POC cluster at 320. That would be the zone of interest. A bear engulfing entry would be, given the location, a really bad spot for sellers to be coming in, to me. So I do not mind at all buying into that with the assumption that that is a failed attempt. Even if it does go engulfing in the next 2 minutes, that's better. I just can't. I'm not going to buy in the high. I got to buy at least a pullback of some description. No news on the calendar that we have to worry about for today. Everything was at 8:30, so. Yeah, the Nasdaq's gone 1.5 up, but it's more than just a 1.5 up. If you look at where it's actually come from, they cycled off of that negative half. Or I mean, they might as well have. So essentially, we've gone up 2 from a dynamic perspective. Crazy lift. Still no pullback. An engulfing candle on the S&P would have to happen in 15 seconds. Probably not going to happen. And now they're going to be closing back above the 5 minute cluster at 27.50. So very likely buyers will try to get it to continue. But again, that's forcing you to buy so high up. Rather see if they can at least get underneath that previous candle, 25.50. Keeps on chugging. No POC shift or anything like that, and relatively herky-jerky volume still, but we are seeing a potential build in volume happening. So some slight accumulation. POC next shift would be up in the 80s then, if that were the case. And that would make sense. Top of the wedge. Bulls are incredibly aggressively bullish, obviously. This is the first time that we've actually pulled back. A lot of traders will be looking to buy the pullback, which makes me think that the first pullback is a trap. Scalper zone of interest would be on a flush down into the 50s. We just need some pullback. Ooh, man. Now, the S&P has gone all the way back up. If this candle goes bearish again on itself, it's very doubtable it's going to stay that way. 28, 27, 26 makes a lot more sense now. On the 8:15 5-minute candle, sellers trap big time. I think sellers are trapped big time regardless. You can see that in price. They're panicking. They're getting squeezed. This isn't your normal, you know, quote unquote healthy market movement. This is one side getting annihilated. Or, if they're trading appropriately, building into positions. But, I mean, realistically, after such a big flush to the downside and seeing everything rebound aggressively higher, I think shorts, if they are short and stuck short, there's not really a desire for them to want to build in for more short. It feels like, you know, if I were short, as an example, I'm not, thank God. But if I were short and this market were just screaming higher like this, I wouldn't be thinking I want to make money on this trade. I would be thinking I want to GTFO out of this trade as fast as possible with as small a damage as possible. And they haven't been given that chance. That's a squeeze. They're being squeezed out. Eventually there will be a pullback, and that's the pullback that traps a lot of traders who have been like, oh, just pull back, please, just pull back. Everybody's waiting for the pullback. At this point in time, if you're waiting for a pullback, you missed it. Like, it's gone. You missed the chance. It was in here. It was either hit the gas pedal with the nitrous down or miss it. That was it. So the next pullback is usually what's going to trap a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, oh, finally, it's pulling back. I'm going to buy here. And they buy into that first pullback to, you know how it goes, to the moving average, right? Or whatever it is. And they try buying and they get that two-legged correction back down. It looks beautiful. And then they end up getting smoked. And that's just because it's way too far up. A lot of times the market's going to want to pull back to those volume nodes from previous. And that doesn't happen until 13,290. They do have some decent volume in the middle to kind of support it. But, I mean, that's it. So just don't get stuck on this one up at the top. Don't be a bag holder. Let it pull back a little ways here. At least back to the 5-minute POC, or there was, you can see, it's kind of tough to see actually. Let me zoom in. There's this little red line right there. There is a massive order that stepped up there, and just, you can see they rival very closely the POC. That's why this is a short-term zone of support. So let the buyers get suckered into the shallow pullback, and then look for the deeper one, because that's the one that's probably going to be a little bit easier to get to work in your favor. Look at the volume right now. The volume is telling us accumulation from the sell side. Or at the very least, buyers are taking more and more and more profit from different time frames. Regardless of the reason why selling is taking place, there is more volume coming in while price is going higher. The assumption is that it's selling. Whether it's buyers taking profit or new sellers, I don't know. Right now, I would say it's just buyers taking profit. It's kind of liberating in a way to hear you say that you missed it in a get over it sense. Yeah, that's... You know, it's tough to admit. You know, it's your ego. That's what it comes down to. Your ego. No, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Oh, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. This, you may not be saying that, you know, consciously, but in the back of your head, the next pullback, traders are going to be buying this dip, not because it's a dip, but because they're chasing it and they feel like they got left out. You got to be real about the situation here. If you're buying here thinking that the trend is going to continue to the upside, you're late. Like, it's gone. You missed it. So you can either get over it or you can chase it and lose money. I mean, that's your choice. You're in the driver's seat. But I prefer a dip. I like buying the dip. It just never came. Oh well. I'll wait for the next one. But don't get suckered into the high. Me too, yeah. I mean, that's how it works. You know, it's a psychological battle. It sucks if you missed it. Like, it doesn't feel great. Don't get me wrong. It's a bummer that I for me at least on the future side, I missed the rally. The upside happens. Oh well. But I would rather be out wishing I was in than in wishing I was out, I'll tell you that much. There'll be a dip. There always is. I'll wait for that dip. I would love that dip to be in the 290s. 10 o'clock right around the corner. Got about 8 minutes. It's usually when we start moving into that reversal time anyway. Yeah, panic, fear. That's what it comes down to, really. I mean, I think small accounts can take positions, can work scalps approach here, but you'd have to be nimble. Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. And one of the only reasons why I don't necessarily hit the gas pedal in the morning session, I do a little bit more when we go into the extended hours. You'll see a lot more scalping in the extended hours, just because there's less delay in the extended session. And for VIPs in the Zoom meeting, then I think the delay is like under a second. So it's easier to kind of keep up because it happens so fast. You do have to be nimble, where oh, well, I'm in. Oh, I'm out. Well, I mean, if you're not quick to the party, you just missed the entire thing or potentially got in late because something looked good, but you missed it by a second, and then all of a sudden you're in a negative position. You have to be very fast. If you're a good scalper, this is candy for sure. Sometimes NASDAQ slow grinding. I dare to buy now. Nice. Yeah, I wouldn't want to buy now. The POC just shifted up again. I mean, if they're going to pull back anywhere, this is where they're going to pull back from. Where do most FOMO traders enter? Show patterns. Right now. You're at the top of the megaphone. The move has gone on 1.5 miles past where a lot of traders thought it was going to. I never thought it was going to get up to this megaphone high. I was looking at this one. I mean, I never thought it was going to get up, never say never, but I really didn't think it was going to get up to the highs of this one. I don't think a lot of other traders did either. That's what I was saying. I'm going to find it really difficult that a lot of buyers aren't going to start profiting out in this area, and we're seeing a POC shift up here. Well, yeah, obviously. So where do FOMO buyers buy in? The quote-unquote dumb money? I don't like using that name because a lot of times it's just ignorance is bliss kind of mentality, I guess, but way up here, that's where they're going to be buying. Like, oh man, it's just not pulling back. It's just not pulling back. Look what it did. I mean, this is a microscopic scale, but think about it. You've been there before. I've been there before. Everybody else has been there before, and you can't say you haven't. You missed the move up, and where are your eyes? I should turn my webcam on for this. Your eyes are like 1 millimeter off of the screen. This little microscopic pullback might not seem like much, but when your eyes are super glued to your monitor, you see them, and buyers will buy there. This is where buyers will be buying in. And that's totally fine from like a scalper's perspective, like we were just talking about. If you're scalping here, there is a beautiful 10, 15 tick bounce immediately off of it. If that's how you're trading it, awesome. But the problem is a lot of traders are buying it up here, which is a scalper's entry, but they're managing it as a swing trade. They're trying to get this move because, again, this isn't a logical entry. This is a psychological entry. They miss this whole move up. They want this to be round 2, so they buy way the heck up here, hoping it does it again. Well, when you smoke opium, it usually doesn't work too well, and it comes crashing back down on you. Now, it might grind around the highs a little bit, but a deeper pullback just makes a lot more sense. Now, again, never say never. This market could go catatonic to the upside, and we could be at 14,000 by the end of the day. And the buyers who bought way up here will have been rewarded this time. Here's the problem. Being rewarded this time strokes the ego on bad habits. The problem with bad habits is it only takes once. You can have all the good habits in the world, but you have one bad habit that you stroke the ego of, and it rears its head at the worst damn time. And all of a sudden, your account's down 50%. It might not have seemed like a big deal at the time. You got to catch yourself. If you're going to buy up here, be realistic. This is scalping. You might get a swing, but don't expect it. Market's going sideways. Nice consolidation. We already know what's going on here. I think every buyer on the planet looked at this like, I can't believe it made it up here. So where are their stops? Their stops are probably really close, which means that buyers trying to buy the dip underneath this next swing low are probably going to get just smashed. And we get the deeper pullback down to where we want it. We know how this roller coaster goes. Realistically, if this is a megaphone, I think the buyers are going to put up a heck of a fight on the way down. I have a very hard time believing that buyers aren't going to be buying the pullback down to all the way down to potentially the Euro session highs with confidence. And if it bounces off the Euro session highs, makes another lower high, visually speaking, if it looks something like this, where it just keeps grinding down, lower high, goes down, lower high, goes down, lower, I think buyers are going to buy it confidently the whole way down, with the assumption that it should make it back up to the highs. The longer it takes, the more resistance is going to be built up here. But that's kind of the approach right now. And realistically, if it doesn't get back up to those highs, if that fails and it abouts to here and rolls back down underneath the 5-minute POC, that could potentially spark that slide. I mean, as crazy as it feels right now, this could end up being a megaphone all the way down to the lows. I doubt it. Probability is incredibly low on something like that happening now. But it's possible. Could. Right? Never say never. I like buying the stops here. Everyone's shorting here. Oh, yeah, for sure. From a scalper's perspective, definitely. This is a great spot to pick up on those quick little, almost instantaneous 10, 15 tick scalps. Like it shows up and before you even have a chance to look at your chart, it's already hit the target. That's this spot here. Just be careful. Don't hold the bag. Got 1 minute until we start moving into the extended session. Finally starting to get a little bit of a pullback. This could be interesting. Ethereum is looking incredibly strong. They had a good 15, 20, 30-minute pullback or so off of the highs. That was basically the only pullback they've had. And buyers are just gobbling it up like it's going out of style. To be fair, I think buyers are going to be eating Ethereum all the way down. It could make a new low. It doesn't matter if it makes a new low. I think buyers are going to be buying that too. I doubt it goes back underneath 2,000. If it does, it's very unlikely going to go through a new low. And if that happens, it's probably like Coinbase going down and there was a glitch or some BS excuse like that. You can almost see it happening already, but anyway. All right. Going on 10 o'clock, I'm going to grab a drink real quick. Let's do final call for questions on the morning session. Then we'll swap over to the extended session and have a little bit more fun. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back. That either shows, confidence that I just, honestly, I didn't feel like I was going to get filled. I was kind of hoping, but, All right. I'm not seeing any other questions going on, so let's switch over to the extended hours side of things. For you VIPs, all you got to do is just hang out in the Zoom session. Nothing that you have to do. You just got to wait and listen to me transition. For those of you on the YouTube side of things, look for the post in the community section for the extended hours that was posted yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. I might have accidentally got it earlier this morning. Whatever. That's posted there. For the rest of you, I hope you had a great day of trading. Rest up, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning, all right? Have a good one, and we will talk to you all later. Thanks.